Fantastic. Everybody, welcome to the PYRESWAP show. And I think, by the way, you're supposed to use this little PYRESWAP show banner. It's going to be kind of sound like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Anyways, everybody, welcome to the PYRESWAP show. And today's Thankful Thursday, and we have a great show today. In fact, I'm going to talk about something with you guys. I'm going to talk about the most obvious way to tell if someone is the real one or just pretending. I want you guys to know my personal system for filtering out real experts from people who don't know what they're talking about. And I think in things like crypto, in any industry, this is critical to learning how to navigate and filtering out the noise and isolating the signal. Does that make sense? So like my personal, almost like the easiest tell to determine this, because this is, by the way, how I figured out who I should listen to about marketing and who I should not listen to about marketing. Does that make sense? And it's a really easy way to tell. But first, I'm going to tell you guys the backstory of how I kind of learned this system. And this backstory, by the way, has a word. This backstory is called the yakosphere. The yak-o-sphere. So a long time ago, not that long ago, I was really a consultant. And I was, as a consultant, as a business consultant, as a whatever consultant, I could end up getting dragged into a whole bunch of different industries. And one of the ways that I kind of allowed myself to get dragged or even baited into being in industries that I had no purpose being in was based on they were basically baiting me with greed. Does that make sense? They were baiting me with a very, very superficial type of greed. Does that make sense? And what I learned is that there's money to be made in any industry you can think of. But if you want to know who you should listen to when it comes to whether or not you should enter that industry, you want to listen very, very closely to the amount of detail they talk about things in. Does that make sense? Me isolating on this, what I didn't really realize is that other people don't think like this. Other people don't have this filter. They don't have this system. So a long time ago, not that long ago, actually when I first met Pirate Producer 2 here, it was in Oregon. It was in the hemp industry. So I want to say in the year 2019, CBD hemp was in a boom. They were just growing 500,000 acres in the United States were growing it. It was like a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what it turned out to be was overhyped. And legitimately, the market ended up collapsing, but a lot of people got dragged into it just because of the price action. And it's what crypto does every summer and winter cycle. It drags people in who are kind of being baited by their own greed, right? And what they have to learn is how to identify where the yakosphere is and how to get out of the yakosphere. So the yakosphere is basically any type of business conversation where whoever you're talking to is always telling you exactly what you want to hear and kind of just like keeping you on the hook. Does that make sense? And the way to get out of the yakosphere is to find the person who talks at a level of detail that you'll never hear in the yakosphere. Does that make sense? Like the exit out of the yakosphere, which, by the way, I think on an entrepreneurial level, people can spend decades in the yakosphere. I think people make money once in the yakosphere and they become convinced that this is like the right way to do business. But it's actually the most amateur way of doing business. You're always like networking or like looking for the next introduction. And it's a very non-systemized approach that really doesn't ever scale or amount to anything. And you can get scammed in the yakosphere and have your fortune ruined as well. The yakosphere is a very, very dangerous place. The yakosphere, by the way, is actually trademarked by me. It's like service marked. So do you guys know what a trademark is? We don't have a trademark, or I don't have a trademark yet, but I think I have a service mark. I didn't do this. Somebody did it on my behalf because one of my most famous stories is called the yakosphere, which is, you're kind of getting a synopsis of that right now. But I've taught the yakosphere to so many people that they remember this forever because I describe the yakosphere as like a physical, vivid place. So why do I bring this up? One, you can figure out who knows what they're talking about based on whether they immediately and fluently jump into vocabulary that you have no idea what they're saying. So an example would be Dr. Mac. If you guys don't know this, Dr. Mac has published over 30 papers in his field. Does that make sense? Scientific papers in his field of medicine. So if you were to begin talking to Dr. Mac about pulmonary health, he would immediately and fluently and with zero friction just jump into an area deep in like the 11th textbook. Does that make sense? Talking about bullet point lists in a level of detail that when you hear that level of detail, you know you're talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about. If people never jump into the level of detail, they're probably just telling you what they want to hear, and they might not know any more than you do. Does that make sense to you guys? What I didn't realize is that I had been making my decisions for so long by using the anti-Yakosphere filter that I didn't realize that most people don't. So therefore, if they hear me techno-babbling, they don't immediately make the connection that I'm a real expert. Rather, they go and they follow somebody who is telling them what they want to hear. Does that make sense to you guys? So as part of my own transformational journey that is learning and mastering this new skill called advertising marketing, which, by the way, we are running ads today. We're doing a very small experiment on Twitter today, and I'm going to talk about that more later. So ads are running as of today. By the way, guys, it apparently, today was almost the meme coin apocalypse today. Are you guys aware? Apparently, it's a meme coin apocalypse. And do you guys know why that's a good thing for us? If it's a meme coin apocalypse today, that means meme coin investor pain is at a peak right now. Do you guys understand? Meme coin investor pain is at a peak. It's spiking. And if it's spiking right now, that means that the pain that we cure, yes, exactly, the pain that PYRESWAP cures, knowing how to tell when to sell, can now be, that messaging can be conveyed more easily. Does that make sense? It's easy to treat someone's pain when their pain is sharp. Does that make sense to everybody? On an allegorical level, would you guys agree that if a pain is sharper, it's a greater motivation, it's a greater point of concern for them? Okay, just making sure I'm not leaving anybody behind. How do you guys feel so far about me talking about a system and then bundling in a story, by the way? Did you guys, I feel like the story could have been a bit more polished. I was kind of freestyling that part, but yeah. The filter again, to get out of the Yakosphere is you have to figure out where the threshold is, where somebody starts jumping into talking into detail. That's literally it. It doesn't matter whether you're talking to an auto mechanic, a landscaper. In the year after that story in Oregon, I was then in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was repairing a house that I owned. My tenants had damaged it, and after my tenant left, a bunch of vandals damaged it, and I think I even had drug addicts like living in it homelessly, and I had to like leave Oregon to go to South Carolina and like get this house under control. There was no management. There was nothing really. I had to go do it physically myself. And when I was hiring people to help me with this house, one of the people that I definitely needed to retain was a landscaper. And legitimately, I was a military veteran, and the landscaper was also a military veteran, which was instant rapport. But when I was talking to him, he immediately like went off on about 8 different types of grass and like what the differences between those 8 different types of grass were. Does that make sense? Because we entered into a conversation about whether or not I should seed new grass in my backyard. So like he didn't have to look on his phone. He off his head rattled off 8 different types of grass and where you could buy them around the area. Does that make sense to you guys? And then he also described what they would do for my dirt, what they would do for my biome, what they would, yeah, exactly. I did. His name was Blake, and I think I think he sent me a happy Thanksgiving text too. He was great. Yeah, legitimately, like that guy knows what he's talking about. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? If you understand that I'm an ex-consultant, that might make sense why I'm telling you about these stories and these systems. Does that make sense? Because like when you get into that little area of expertise, like you can kind of know like, oh shit, that guy knows what he's talking about because he has rambled on into a bottomless pit of detail, and it would make more sense to just pay him as opposed to learning what he's trying to tell me. Anyways, I wanted to give a little bit of backstory about me to explain even my own epiphany around technobabble and why it's not persuasive to the layman. I think it's persuasive to the expert who knows how to filter between experts and amateurs. But I realize that crypto is so mindless that this is one of the hardest things to gauge. So I realized that I have to, again, change my approach to this by gaining new expertise on marketing and advertising. And now, when I talk about our marketing and advertising, this is what I want to teach. This is what I want you guys to understand from this show today. By the way, it's Thankful Thursday, so I want to thank you guys for tuning in even up to now. But when I talk about our marketing and advertising strategy now, I want you guys to tune in to the amount of detail that I'm now talking about marketing and advertising. Does that make sense? I would like you to notice the level of detail that I can now approach with marketing and advertising conversations. And I want you to at least contrast this level of detail with any founder in the Web3 space. Does that make sense? Legitimately talking about just the theoretics, the strategies. Yeah, truly, truly, truly pay attention to the obnoxiously niche level of details that I jump into. Does that make sense? Okay. Because it's only when you kind of focus on the details. If you ever heard the devil is in the details, have you guys ever heard that before? The devil is in the details? Like, the devil being in the details means that, like, you have to pay attention to detail. Otherwise, you'll be blindsided by the fucking devil, okay? Like, I can't think of a better maxim. But anyways, so now do you guys understand the most obvious way to tell if someone's an expert or an amateur? Does that make sense? Did anybody not catch that from the story? I don't have this story completely written out. By the way, this story has nothing to do with our marketing or advertising strategy. Rather, I need to become more of a storytelling fucking factory as part of my own professional transformation. I need to be a storytelling machine. So I'm trying to just get into the habit of dropping stories whenever I can. Okay, so, okay, yeah, and meme coins possibly got slaughtered today. In which case, perhaps meme coin investor pain is at an all-time high, which might be very bullish for us. 2, we have launched our ad campaign. By the way, our ad campaign is maybe 7 or 8 hours old. I'll tell you a few things about it. We are only targeting the country of India. Did I tell you guys that? Did I tell you guys that? I want you to know something. This ad campaign is not actually even about converting anybody, because an advertising funnel does not convert. Like the type of traffic we're attracting and the type of funnel we're putting them into, we're not even bringing them to the swap page. We're not bringing them to anything. We are bringing them to howtotellwhentosell.com, .info, and .xyz. And we're legitimately just kind of interested in checking what the dollar cost per click we can get in a certain list. We have like a lookalike audience. I'll tell you guys who some of who our lookalike audience is. Balaji. So Balaji S. Balaji S. I think we also have Beefy Finance. We also have like Barry Silbert. We have Miles Deutscher. We also have the guy from DeFi Llama, also known as 0x, not going to make it. We also have 5 more that I can't remember. I want to say Ave and Lido. Okay, Ave and Lido, and then Defiant News, and 2 others that I can't remember right now. The point being here is that I'm running 3 separate ads for the 3 different websites. Does that make sense, everybody? Like each website has its own like modular ad campaign. I want you to know that when they gave me like a total audience reach, by the way, they're all targeting India. I'm gonna explain why in a second. They gave me 3 different numbers on the total audience reach based on the order that I fed them the lookalike audience usernames. So I want you to know that like we're still shopping for data here. We're interested in data. When you do an advertising campaign experiment, we're spending like $10 a day times 3 for a week. Generally speaking, no serious advertiser does an experiment for less than $100 per day for a month. So we're still doing a smaller advertising experiment for the sake of just getting that single click data. Now, two, we're not just testing the ad. We're also testing to see if Twitter is going to allow us to manually post those links with greater visibility now that we're running ads for them. Does that make sense? Right? So we're now running ads actively, meaning I have now sent money to Twitter. Oh, Pega, that's called a lookalike audience. Yeah, lookalike. So what you're doing is you're basically just you're gonna list off up to 10 accounts, and they have their own following. Does that make sense? So what you're doing is you're targeting an audience that looks like the following of these 10 accounts as an aggregate. Does that make sense? Yes. Do you know who Miles Deutscher is? He's a crypto Twitter influencer, but he's like a little bit more big brain, right? So Balaji, more big brain. Barry Silbert, slightly more big brain. Like, these aren't meme coin guys. Does that make sense? I mean, actually, Miles does a little bit of meme coin shit, but like Barry Silbert, they're not like they don't look like Murad. Does that make sense? I have no fucking idea. Yeah, no, it's the real one. It's the one with the blue check mark. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that there's at least 15 accounts impersonating him. Yeah, no, I got the right one. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anyways, another data point. By the way, we already have. Okay, why am I targeting India? Does anybody know? India is the largest country at cost per click, where a certain fraction of the audience speaks English. Does that make sense? So India has over 1 billion people, and I think roughly 25% of them speak English. Does that make sense? It's like 25%. So because cost per click goes way lower because you're targeting India, the amount of English-speaking people you can reach ends up being higher. We don't need to target anybody in Luxembourg, right? We don't need to target English-speaking people in Luxembourg or in Grand Cayman, right? So I think Grand Cayman is the richest English-speaking territory. Are you guys aware of this? We don't need Grand Cayman. Do you guys understand? We need like more users of any income class. Does that make sense? So third worlders who speak English are extremely welcome. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally fine. Yes, but Pega, and this is day one, right? So the ad campaign is only 8 hours old. I've noticed that so far cost per click doesn't imply that we're getting a better rate for targeting India. So either one, the lookalike audience is invalidating the cost per click, or two, I should just go ahead and target America. But the answer to that is going to come from what? It's going to come from another experiment that we run perhaps 7 days from now. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense? I know that everybody's patience is being tried, but again, the level of detail and the level of data you get from this is what gets applied to a system that leverages that level of detail for exponential returns. Again, I'm not trying to put my project into a cacophonous noise contest with a bunch of trash. Rather, my project has to enter that arena and dominate. So we're going to use funnels because, by the way, anybody who says anything like people on Twitter want to stay on Twitter, I have a question. Can you buy and sell meme coins without leaving Twitter? Is it possible to buy meme coins? Yeah, you have to connect a wallet somewhere. Even if your Twitter thing has an NFT profile picture, I'm pretty sure you have to go to a DEX like Radium. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need a Web3 connection. Or you need to go to a centralized exchange website, which is still, guess what? Not on Twitter. Does that make sense to you guys? So anybody who says that like people want to stay on Twitter, they're only on Twitter because of the money on the other websites. Do you guys understand? They're only on Twitter in the first place because Twitter is the information arena and then the other websites are the actual transaction arenas. Does that make sense? So any type of argument that like we need to keep people on Twitter, obviously that's not true because meme coins aren't doing that either. Does that make sense? People are on Twitter and they're looking for something to interrupt them, which is why our ad is literally like a white rectangle. How to tell when to sell. Crypto profits without crypto panics. It is meant to look different than everything else they see on crypto, right? It's not just candlestick charts. Show me the next 10,000x. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? We can literally see on these Twitter websites how fucking it literally becomes a, to quote Sabri Subi, By the way, Sabri Subi is a guy who has done 3 to 4 billion in internet marketing and advertising, and in Australia of all places. So Sabri Subi has done billions for his clients as an advertising agency. Can everybody read this? What is average is wrong. And when I acquired the Discord servers, the 5 Discord servers in 2022, I did not realize that I was effectively regressing to the average way of marketing in Web3 at the time. Do you guys understand this? Because the way that advertising and marketing right now is being done in crypto, this way will also saturate. So it makes more sense for us to be part of what's coming next rather than catching up to the fucking pack. Do you guys understand? Literally go to that arena and then evolve. We can funnel people back to Discord. We've already succeeded at it, right? The difference is we have to make our Discord more of a funnel. Now, one of the things we might do, we might make how to tell when to sell have more steps in it. Does that make sense? So later on, this will be like a January thing at the earliest. Later on, we might make how to tell when to sell have more like video sequences in it. Does that make sense? And then we would make them join Discord on like the 3rd video or the 4th video. Does that make sense? Like just to be clear, like that's in order to get them to go. I agree, from one website to video sales letter to another social media platform. It makes more sense for us to build the trust with multiple clicks, add value to them, and then give them more and more reasons to come to the Discord. So by the time that you drop the call to action to join Discord, they're much more motivated to actually enter that Discord and learn from it. Does that make sense? Don't worry about that right now at all. But rather, since we're on here, there's 2 more things left to do. One of them, I'll do the how to tell when to sell link drops, because since we're now running advertising. By the way, is Alessio on here? I'm seeing Alessio, when he shows up in my feed dropping that link, he gets like 100 impressions on every link. So Alessio, for whatever reason, Alessio gets amazing numbers on his link drops. I don't know what he's doing. But again, Alessio, the numbers I saw you getting today, they might be because we have an active campaign, because we're running an ads. So let's find out if this happens across the board, right? Because by the way, guys, if we find out today, if we find out this week, in the next 7 days, if we find out that all you need to do is give Twitter $10 a day and they give you fucking carte blanche permission to spam your link wherever the fuck you want, we now have an edge over the rest of Twitter. And that's one thing we could learn in the next 7 days. Does that make sense? Because if we now know that if all we gotta do is have our URLs on a list, and then we can literally just have 5 to 10 people just dropping that, so when do we sell question, and suddenly we get all the engagement we want, this Discord will be a stampede before you know it. But we won't know that until we test it. Does that make sense? Again, the data provides the clarity, and the clarity provides the, well, Alessio, that might have been the, Alessio, there's another thing working for us. Right? I do agree that sometimes it's random. Like you get 600 impressions, right? I've had it as well. The meme coin pain helps. Does that make sense? We have another thing working for us right now, which is the meme coins are like bleeding out of their eyes. So if the meme coins are in pain and the meme coin investors are in pain, this is the time to drop this link. Do you guys know why? Because they're having a crypto panic. And our headline, our sub-headline says crypto profits without crypto panics. Would you guys agree? So I think that today we're going to get great numbers because we're advertising and we also have this don't worry promise, right? Anyways, okay, are you guys excited? I'm gonna do it right now. Can I get a screen share, Mr. Producer?
For your computer?
This one here, yep. It'll be Twitter. Yep. We're just gonna post the links. I mean, it's not that exciting. But then after we post these links, I have another thing I want to talk to you guys about that demonstrates the level of detail that I now understand marketing and advertising. Okay, we're on the screen share. It seems real. Did I drop my glasses before and like never figured out where they fell? It seems like something that would happen. You know what, Electronic, you're completely correct. I do need a lavalier mic. No screen share? Oh, you need to, is it screen sharing on
Discord? I don't know how to do that.
Do you know how to screen share on Oh, you're on, okay, what screen do you put on Discord when you're screen sharing?
The middle one.
Oh. Well then can you do that one? Like can you put this one, the one that I'm seeing now, can you put that one on Discord? Can you change the screen share on Discord? If you go to Discord and you click bottom left, it'll be like the number and then you should be able to, it'll probably say stop streaming, and then you click stop streaming, and then you can click it again and then pick a different screen to stream. I'm gonna get a water while we work with these technical difficulties. Is everybody okay? Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? It's Thankful Thursday. Aren't you guys thankful that you're not a meme clearer today?
Have you seen the stock market today? It's fucking crazy bad.
What does it look like?
All red.
Okay, well that's...
One of the worst days in a long time.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I really don't. I can end
Do you really not have the ability to share this screen?
well, I can end the call, but I don't know how to reconnect the call. So like,
All right. 1 second, everybody. I'm gonna hold. This button right here. Turn on camera stream.
screen.
Yeah, screen.
Okay. Sorry.
Go to center video for recording and go. Yeah, this is the one you should use in general, by the way, because it'll make it. Okay, how is the screen share now on Discord?
Okay.
Yep. Everyone still with me? Is the screen share coming to life? Shared. Okay, phenomenal. All right. So since we are now spending money on ads, let's find out what happens. Let's find out. All right. First of all, going to home. First of all, I want to show you guys something. Legitimately, this is a post where I'm getting likes right here. Benny Ram, Kuja Ram, I don't know who these people are, but the post, the ad looks like this. When are you supposed to sell crypto? When are you supposed to sell crypto? When are you supposed to sell crypto? So I'm gonna click more right here. I can click ads, and I can show you what the ads look like for the data. So by the way, we have 5,500 impressions for $28 of spend so far. And oh, they're halted now. So they might be halted because they finally hit the upper limit on the spend. But again, here were the impressions we got. This is the .com. I'm pretty sure this is .info and this is .xyz. I'm not really sure. But they all started around 8 hours ago, right? Or actually, I have no idea. This is actually the youngest one. I have no idea what's going on here. But anyways, from this data, you can see that like, hey, you got X amount of link clicks. You have a results right here, meaning you have a 0.25 link click. Normally, it seems that we get better rates than that from posting it manually. Does that make sense? I think that we get like 1 to 2% here as opposed to these. Now, granted, there's a lot of stuff. Well, okay, I'm not gonna explain that right now. But when we promote it as an ad, promoting it as an ad is not the same context as replying to an influencer. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So it's like a little bit of a different traffic hook. So that's another flaw in this data. But then also you can see that this is our pricing daily, and then they have a cost per click here. Now, granted, the cost per result here was the lowest, right? But then also had the lowest results rate. So why am I showing you guys this? I'm showing you guys this to don't conclude anything from data from 1 day of experimentation. These experiments need to be like longer term. In fact, that we're only doing this for 7 days. Any real advertising pro would say you need to do 30-day experiments or more. Like that's what an advertising experiment takes. But in this case, we're only really comparing it to the cost of PYRESWAP that it took to get someone to join this Discord in the past, right? And then also we are looking for whether or not we can now post these links manually and get much greater virality or much greater amounts of impressions. So again, that's something we test for 7 days, not just for 1. But it looks like it's halted. Anyways, I don't know why, but I'm not gonna do that on the show with you guys here. Rather go to home for you. Let's see. Okay, well this is let's see if I go faster. Okay, we got the moon here. The moon, let's see. The moon Carl, 1.4 million followers. Let's see. Bitcoin, what the fuck is going on here? There you go. So let's see. 62 comments. There we go. So when do we sell? Cha-ching. Right. That's 1. Let's see. Caden XBT. Show me the ticker. I like it. I buy it. 51,000 followers. Let me see who else. 137,000. Let's see. No. Bonked. Okay, I have no idea that's pronouncing this. Okay, let's find Dubsy XBT and let's see what the last thing he posted about. How to get through tough times. Yeah. When is the last? Okay, nothing frequent enough. Okay, Mags, the Scalping Pro, has 98,000. Okay, 7 hours. Let's see. What's the last thing he talked about? Okay, there you go. 56 minutes, and Plop is looking good as support. Let's fucking just let's ask the hard questions. All right. And let's see. It mentions Fartcoin, but I'm trying to find something more frequent. No, 19 hours. I think that like having them be less than 6 hours old seems to be useful. Close the markets. Okay, Bitcoin just hit 99,000. Okay, there we go. This is a pain post, right? Ash Crypto here. Okay, close the markets. 251 replies. This one has 267. This one's obviously getting more retweets, so obviously. So when do we sell? Guys, I'm not like reveling in the market being red today, okay? I'm just trying to show you that there's always a reason to be optimistic. All right, guys. I have now posted those posts. And let's see. One of the things, by the way, that I've noticed about this campaign is that I'm getting followers pretty regularly. Then when I go and look at replies, you know what, Alessio, you're probably right. If I was doing this on a day that isn't the PYRESWAP show, I would look for even more recent ones for sure. I think that I just try to have like less than 6 hours. I think that me demoing that I'm doing it, one, it helps people understand what to do. And then 2, it shows that, like, again, this is all we're doing. I'm not talking about something nuclear, right? The fact of the matter is, the reason I'm excited about this and people don't understand why is that, hey, I literally didn't believe. Okay, I want you guys to understand why I was excited about how to tell when to sell. Everything in crypto is on Twitter right now, right? Twitter is the new meta. But everything on Twitter is dominated with meme coins. And the only way that we were getting our project talked about was if I was going to get ambassadors to do the talking. So we had two fucking problems. We weren't on Twitter enough. We didn't have a clear way to make our ambassadors more effective. Does that make sense? And when people were showing up to be ambassadors, they think that the job is like, shill this next meme coin. Do you guys understand? There's a whole bunch of these miscommunications. So what How to Tell When to Sell gave us, legitimately with immense freedom, is a way that we can in fact capture people from Twitter who are interested in the solution we provide. Does that make sense? So like the fact that only like 17 people or 19 people have joined in the last week or whatever, I know that maybe that's disheartening for people, but we now have a fuse lit. Like we don't even have the fuse lit. We now have the fuse though. Does that make sense? We didn't even have the fuse before. We didn't have a good marketing message, which by the way, you kind of need a core central one. We didn't have that really before December. Do you guys understand? If I were to look back at like between August and November, it was literally just a whole bunch of Sisyphean boulder pushing. But like finally now, because of How to Tell When to Sell, I'm not just pushing a boulder endlessly. I'm in fact unbottlenecking myself and actually figuring out how to solve the marketing problem on a much bigger scale. But like the importance being, we now have a way to actually capture Twitter traffic. And what that means is the theoretics behind that can be expanded and diversified to the point that we now have a way to capture YouTube traffic. We now have a way to capture Reddit traffic. Do you guys understand? We didn't really have this level of sophistication before. Do you guys understand? Like YouTube traffic, Reddit traffic, and Twitter traffic, it's only going to get better from here. I just needed to prove the concept with one website and one video. Well, actually like 3 videos, but you get what I'm saying. Well, let's see. We have notifications already. Goodness gracious. Okay. Thank you, Alessio. Okay, so you can put me back on the big screen, and you do have me there. Fantastic. Okay, so now I'm going to actually talk to you guys about the level of detail in our marketing and advertising going forward, because I want to ask your opinions on these 10 things I have on a list, okay? I'm going to put 10 things up here, which is actually on a different whiteboard over there. So there's actually a larger whiteboard over there. It's like 4 times the size of this one. But okay. I promise it's there. Okay, I'll show you guys one day. Actually, you know what? Hang on. Let me screen share on the phone. Hang on.
No, you just turn the camera.
Is that what it is? Hang on. Hang on.
It's on a tripod, man.
No, it's easier for me to do this on my phone. There you go.
I could literally do it in 3 seconds.
Okay, but like I don't need you to run around and do it. So does that work? See, I don't know what camera it's looking at. Maybe look at the other thing. Okay, who cares? All right. Okay, you know what? I'm done. I'm over it. Nope. Too much friction. We're gonna focus. On. There you guys go. Big whiteboard. Thank you. Okay, you can put it back and spin it to me. Thanks. I'm glad we had that. Alessio, I believe so. When PYRESWAP Studio Tour, Alessio, literally all we're going to be doing after we have, after we build learnpyreswap.com, after we build 2 funnels, cold traffic funnel and warm traffic funnel, all we're going to do for the rest of my life is apparently vomit content and literally bukkake the internet with it. Does that make sense? So we're going to have every type of studio tour you could think of. Studio tours in costume, studio tours out of costume, studio tours in English, studio tours in Pig Latin, studio tours upside down studio tours. Oh, by the way, guys, couple of things that you might care about, because I know you guys are my biggest fans. We might publish a book of short stories that are some of the early PYRESWAP lore. I don't know. Yeah, like there's an idea that I had that perhaps even having like a 90-page ebook that perhaps carries PYRESWAP canon as a collection of stories, short stories. Do you guys know how J.R.R. Tolkien had that short story book? I think it's called like the Silmarillion. Yeah, anyways. Yeah. So similar to the Silmarillion, but smaller, not like 700 pages or whatever, like just like 100 pages. More on that probably in 2025. But, okay, anyways. Storytelling is so powerful, I now believe that even leaking some early lore is of value. Does that make sense? More on that way later. Let me talk about the fucking whiteboard here, okay? So I want you, for those of you who come to this show often, and I know that everybody who does, you've probably heard me say that I need to have 10 stories memorized before I even go on this YouTube and Twitter space marathon. Have you guys heard me say this? That I'm going to personally commit to having like 10 stories memorized so that I can say them, you know, right? 10. We'll just call them 10. Have you guys heard me say this? That I'm going to arm myself with an inventory of 10 stories. Now you might be wondering, any 10 stories? No. Like these 10 stories are like deliberate and targeted and intentional. And what these 10 stories are, these are epiphany bridge stories that are based around a false belief. Now, when we talk about a false belief, we mean a false belief specific to the vehicle we're promoting. So I want you to understand the vehicle we're promoting, at least at this time, because what we were promoting before was like not a vehicle at all. The vehicle or the opportunity we're promoting is actually this. Does that make sense? So you make this opportunity, and you might be wondering why we call it FA in crypto as the opportunity we're promoting. I'm actually going to draw a diagram real quick. Right, looks like this. Okay. So this right here is the mainstream. And this right here is the crazy zone. And this right here is also the crazy zone. And the point being here is that this line right here represents the amount of money to be made in these zones. So when you're in the mainstream, which arguably would now be maybe meme coins, the money's kind of saturated. And when you're too fucking crazy, there isn't any money either. Does that make sense? Rather, there's a zone right here. And these are they called the prolific zones. Does that make sense? So you need to be able to be somewhere between the mainstream and the crazy. Does that make sense? Otherwise, like, if your shit's too crazy, there's no money in it either. So ways that we were talking about PYRESWAP in the past probably came across like we were in the crazy zone. Does that make sense? I just want to be as open and transparent and honest as possible. And again, I'm demonstrating the level of detail that I'm now talking about marketing and advertising. Okay? So when we're talking in the crazy zone, there's no money there. But if we're in the zone of prolificness, the prolific zone, there is money. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a business that was in the prolific zone that did really, really well in the last couple of years. Has anybody ever heard of a guy named Dave Asprey? He started a company called Bulletproof. And he started selling a coffee called Bulletproof. Has anybody ever heard of Bulletproof? Okay. So Dave Asprey, the idea that he's selling, yeah. And what was his thing? His thing was butter in coffee. Put butter in coffee. Put butter in coffee. Right? Do you remember that, Pega? Like his main thing is like, have you ever thought about putting butter? So Dave Asprey and Bulletproof is a perfect example of being in the prolific zone because you're not completely insane yet. Does that make sense? Yeah, to each their own. Yeah, exactly, Pega. Yeah, it's like, it's the same thing as cream, right? Like it's just a dairy product, whatever. I don't drink coffee, but I do consume butter. Yeah. And, I consume pre-workout. Don't worry, okay? I'm not a crazy person. I still get my 1,000 milligrams of caffeine in. Yeah. Well, yeah, Rolf, I am, yeah, it is actually impossible for me to have a plant-based diet. Yeah, I'm allergic to soy, and I have an IgG sensitivity to legumes. And I have to consume more of like a paleo diet. And dairy is not on my reflex list. So I can, I think it's like I can have about 8 ounces of dairy a day, right? Not more than that, but yeah. A high-fat diet works really well with me. And it doesn't seem to be... As far as Americans and their obesity problems, it seems... oh, by the way, yeah, they promote fruit for sure. But, yeah, no, it seems like obesity comes from the amount of carbs that Americans eat. It has nothing to do with, like, animal products. Yeah. Animal products is all fucking protein and fat, right? But, like, the carbs Americans eat and them being processed, that's where fucking the heart disease and the obesity and all that shit comes from. Anyways... We're not actually here to talk about Dave Asprey and Bulletproof Coffee. Yeah. So I was using Dave Asprey as an example of the prolific zone. Does everyone understand that? We're talking about fucking PYRESWAP. I promise we're talking about PYRESWAP. We're talking about crypto. Okay? But do you guys understand that the idea is just weird enough for it to not come across as crazy? Because you're in the mainstream diet. Most people consume coffee and most people consume butter. So all you gotta do is like, have you thought about adding a butter to your coffee? Does that make sense? It's just not crazy enough. Okay, it's crazy enough to hook you, but it's not crazy enough to repulse you. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? And I mean, granted, it repulses Rolf. Rolf, I don't know how to answer that question without it getting turned into a meme. Yeah, Pega, yeah, it was in Mongolia or something. But yes, correct. The story is also part of the marketing. Anyways, so our opportunity that we offer is FA in crypto. Does that make sense? Yes, indeed. And Mongolians are shepherds, so it was technically yak butter. I know the whole story because it gets used as a example of this. In order for me to figure out what 10 stories I need to memorize, these 10 stories have to be around false beliefs concerning fundamental analysis in crypto. Does that make sense? So basically speaking, I have been brainstorming, and that's what's on the other whiteboard. What are the major false beliefs with this opportunity we're promoting? Now, some of these false beliefs will even be things related to the vehicle, like tomb forks are bad, or Phantom Opera is dying, or things like that. But I'm going to explain to you the ones that I've listed so far, and I'm going to explain to you, we're going to categorize them, and then basically, I'm going to have to tell a small story to break these beliefs. So I'm going to tell you guys what the list I have right now. And of course, I'm interested in learning other false beliefs you guys can think of. So the first one, I'm going to change to red. I think I'm going to change to red. Okay. 1, scam. I'm just going to say it's scam. That's the first one. 2, TA is good. Okay. 3, red candles can kill. Now, granted, red candles can kill their projects, obviously, but like, obviously, this is going to be it would be stupid of us for us not to have an Epiphany Bridge story around this concept. Would you guys agree? Because this is one of the most impressive claims of ours. Does that make sense? 4, FA is impossible. In Web3. Okay. 5, tomb forks bad. 6, Phantom is dying. Then there's internal ones. Thank you, bro. I will be honest. We probably have to pick the ones that people are most likely to have coming into it, if that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Number 7 is I'm too stupid, which, by the way, I'm clearly at fault about like letting this one. I only exacerbated this one. And let me move this. Let me move the night. I'm too stupid. 8 would be, sorry. I don't speak English, by the way. Yeah. Like anything about language barrier. Yeah. Nine was, okay. 9 is only meme coins win right now. I think that today's market performance has done plenty to shake that. I'm kidding you guys. I'm not trying to sound like I'm relishing in watching high performing meme coins crash 70% today. I'm kidding you guys. But I want you to understand that we can crash 70% in a day and come back. Yeah. And I mean, like, we could 100x and then crash 70% and still come back. We could 1000x and then crash 70% and then still come back. We could do it again and again and again. And I'm going to enjoy proving this to a larger and larger audience. Just really rubbing it in. But of course, before I do that, I must learn to tell stories. Okay? 9, only meme coins right now. Okay? And the 10th one on this list was, hang on. Oh yeah, like dashboards are bad, I think, something like that. Yeah, or dashboards aren't useful or something like that.
When you were writing there was dashboards were too difficult to read.
Yeah, okay, dashboards too difficult. There you go. Okay. I don't know if I said dashboards are bad or they lie or like they had the idea is that they had bad experience with dashboards. Yeah, dashboards bad. There we go. We'll just do that. Okay. All right, Fexer, for sure. Well, again. The 100x that I'm looking forward to, most of you guys, do you guys know what 100x that I'm looking forward to? Is 100xing the user base. Yeah. Oh, Fexer, great question. I have our devs literally fucking, how would I say this? In the trenches with me on marketing, advertising, analytics. So the front end for those have been completely done. In order for me to, okay, I'll tell you this. I will be doing the design of those leaderboards at the same time I'm doing the YouTube marathon. Does that make sense? So it'll be during the YouTube, probably maybe during the end of the YouTube marathon, whatever the fuck that would be, or the Twitter Space marathon, which could be within days or weeks. We're just continuing hammer. I'm not gonna say a timeline. I'm just gonna fucking keep doing it. I would like to have them up before Genesis ends, but I don't know, Fexer, and it's going to be one of those things that, one, by the way, the leaderboards will also need a epiphany story, by the way. But yes, the front end for the leaderboards have been done for a while. The back end, I just need to spend maybe one day putting the design up. Kia Dezo is Kia Dezo is like the dashboard dev, right? And right now, Kia Dezo is helping me with the short form content automation. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but we have a TikTok, Instagram, and other things happening as well. And in order for me to keep running around and like, you know, playing whack-a-mole with this stuff. Yeah. And like, again, I want you guys to understand something. Like, Genesis ending doesn't hurt us. I want you to understand that, like, the whole goal with Genesis was to gain the user base. So, like, we're not going to go to a smaller user base because of Genesis ending. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's not what you want to hear, but I just want to at least help you understand that it doesn't affect my tenacity to actually just solve this problem in the nuclear way. Yeah, so you guys are, now we have an anti-Genesis movement. I love it, okay? But by the way, Fexer, if you've been listening to me talk about epiphany bridges, clearly I want you guys to know that epiphany bridging is what always needs to happen to change anyone's behavior, right? So in order for us to even introduce this paradigm shift that, hey, by the way, there can be other incentives to deploy liquidity besides emissions, that is also something that we create with, oh shit, I'm sorry. I'm muted? Hang on. Check. I'm back. Okay, but yeah, anyways. Oh, thank you. But yeah, okay, yeah, anyways, the point being is that this skill set, these stories, it will also be how we bring this project through the rest of the phases. 100%. Arguably, the fantasy fiction theme fits perfectly. That was, God's gift to me from 3 years ago or whatever, okay? So anyways, these are what I think are the top 10 false beliefs concerning this opportunity, right? Does that make sense? Now, I would love to, do you guys understand all 10 of these as an idea of like, when people hear about this project of, okay, audio check. We're good. No, we know we have it. Audio check. You have audio check. Let me write it. Audio check. Okay. All right. I am getting like a bunch of notifications from like, I'm not going to talk about it, but anyways, you guys at least, okay, spill the beans. Yeah. Fexer, the establishment doesn't want you to know. Anyways, these 10 false beliefs, effectively speaking, if you were to be watching a video, just like how to tell when to sell, right? Or watching any other video where I'm talking about how PYRESWAP and the GPSE brings true fundamental analysis to crypto, we have to think about what are the false beliefs people are going to have in the back of their head that are going to prevent them. Basically, a false belief is like, what are they going to cross their arms about and basically not take action if they don't hear it addressed? So there's 3 major categories of false beliefs. There's three categories. I wish I had more space on this whiteboard. Wait a minute. Yep, okay, I do. Look at that, you guys. We have doubled the whiteboard space.
I wish I drew a picture.
Just like that. Okay. Anyways, there's 3 categories. Okay. 3 types. I should do a bigger marker. Hang on. Three types of false belief. Okay. And we need to get more blue. Anyways, 1 is a vehicle one. 2 is internal. 3 is external. So a vehicle-based belief, hang on. Alessio, I think that by 2026, we will do the PYRESWAP show completely in the metaverse, and I'll just be like floating and hovering above the ground with light coming out of my eyes, and I will be in a castle that is made completely out of whiteboards. That's what I... Am I kidding? Who knows?
You said you need more blue.
Oh, I meant blue refill ink. Yeah, this is, thank you. Yeah, I meant like a reorder of ink, but thank you. Okay, we'll get there. Anyways, can you guys read this? I realize green ink doesn't do amazing with these floodlights. Here's what I can do. Okay, let me see if I can tilt it to make it more legible. Yeah, sure, shit, that kind of works. Kind of. Vehicle, internal, and external. So I'm just going to explain that real quick while I spin it back around. A vehicle-based belief, and I'll actually highlight these as well. A vehicle-based belief is like Tomb Forks is bad. This is a vehicle-based one, right? So we'll put V next to 5 here. Do you guys understand? It's like something wrong with your product Do you guys understand what I'm saying? They believe something about your vehicle or your opportunity or your whatever you're doing, which is why it won't work. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Is my audio on?
Nah, I distracted everybody.
I'm just glad we could, spend this quality time together, you guys. Okay, red candles can kill. Believe it or not, this could be an external one or a vehicle one, but I think I have it labeled as vehicle over there. FA is impossible. This is also a vehicle one, or it's kind of external. It could be economy, but what is labeled a vehicle one anyway? TA is good. This is also a vehicle-based belief. Scam is also a vehicle-based belief because crypto just has scams. Does that make sense? So we have these 5 vehicle-based beliefs. This one here, Phantom is dying. This is what you would call an external-based belief. Do you guys know why? Because an external false belief is something that you assign to the economy as a whole, right? Like something outside of you and the product, right? Like a vehicle-based false belief is like, this won't work because of something about it. An internal false belief is, this won't work because something about me. And an external false belief is, this won't work because of something that isn't it or me, but external, right? Like the economy or the president or the powers that be. Do you guys know that like there's conspiracy theory rampant through crypto, right? So do you guys understand what I'm saying? So Phantom is dying. This is an external false belief. So we read it as an E, right? Does that make sense? Then we have I'm too stupid, right? I'm too stupid is an internal false belief, meaning that like anybody who talks themselves out of trying to figure this out because maybe they had a bad experience in school, right? I don't speak English. This is also an internal false belief, right? Only meme coins work right now. This is an external false belief. Does that make sense? It just means like the economy will only choose meme coins. They can believe that if they want. And I believe that dashboards are bad. This was a vehicle-based belief, right? So we have 6 V's and then we have 2 E's and 2 I's. Does everybody understand me? Does everybody still follow me here? We're about an hour into this. I should probably wrap this up. The point being is that next to a false belief, you basically create an experience. You have to like think about why do they have this false belief? They must have had an experience. And because they had this experience, what are they doing inside their own head? They are telling themselves a story. This is how the human brain works. So all of our beliefs come from a story. In order to get people to change their beliefs, you have to install a new story. Every single one of our beliefs is backed by a story in our own head. Do you guys understand? Which is why when you convince people, you can only tell them stories. You can't tell them data. Do you understand? So, what I would like to serve at you guys, and by the way, if you can't think of anything now, that's fine. I would like to know if you guys can think of any other false beliefs that someone would have about this project, or should I say this opportunity. Does that make sense? Anything that people say and it's like, wow, that's not even completely true. Sorry, that's not even remotely true. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like anything that like somebody, does that make sense to you guys? Like any type of like, wow, that's actually nonsense. I don't know why you would think. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Oh yeah, whales are bad. Yeah. This is true. Whales are bad. Right? I would say that gets into, that's like an external one. Okay. If you guys can think of any, I would like to hear your opinions, but it's okay if you don't as well. The point being is, whales are bad. I can probably bundle that into something here. Anyways, basically speaking, the 10 stories that I'm going to have, the 10 stories that I'm going to have memorized, or the 11, I have no idea if you guys are actually, I can't really tell if you guys are joking or serious sometimes, but I get what you're saying. Whales are bad is definitely in the whole like conspiracy theory thing, so it is an external belief. Marketing is not necessary. Well, like, I don't know if that matters to the opportunity. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, some people do. So by the way, Rolf, some people have also objected to. Okay. So while you were criticizing me before for not pivoting enough to marketing, I have now been criticized for pivoting too much to marketing now. So like I have to deal with opinions all over the spectrum, if that makes sense. But these opinions, like opinions about marketing and its necessity, are not opinions that are going to be at this arena, because this arena is based around fundamental analysis in crypto, right? If that makes sense to you guys. But, you know, hilariously, I remember that token called Floki. Do you guys remember Floki? And I knew a guy who was smart, and he was listing off that he thought it was a good buy because the group behind it, they were spending a certain amount on marketing. So he just knew that by their marketing spend, he was doing fundamental analysis on making money with it. Does that make sense? So it's interesting that like you can in fact arguably conduct fundamental analysis based on the marketing efficacy of a crypto project, or anything, by the way, or things outside of crypto too. So you can, marketing is in theory part of FA, and like, you know, the way that they do it. Generally speaking, when large companies acquire other companies, like, do you guys remember when Facebook acquired Instagram? Did you guys remember this? The reason they were acquiring Instagram is because they wanted 30 million people. Does that make sense? They were acquiring Instagram as a list. Do you guys understand? So legitimately, yeah. It's the way that Instagram was analyzed for acquisition, it was analyzed as a marketing tool, which really all social media is. If that makes sense from a business perspective. That's a story. That's a story, right? Do you guys get it? That's a story that proves. Anyways, okay. I'm not gonna. Okay. I don't think that false belief, Rolf, works for the vehicle based. The whale one could be in this area. I would probably say that the whale one might be. It might knock off the tent based belief. But to be honest, Dr. Mac, I don't think that people would object to that because the whales being bad isn't something that's about fundamental analysis. That's more like a that's like an objection a bit broader. Yeah, exactly. No, whatever. It's yeah, whales are bad, but everybody on Twitter is literally just like following an influencer around, right? With like 100,000 followers. And like, what do you think that guy's doing to his portfolio right now? You know what I mean? It's like, well, yeah, are whales bad, or are you, deliberately choosing to, anyways, yeah, some people, again, people don't have self-awareness. Anyways, so if you guys want to know what I'm doing to build learnPyReswap.com, as well as arm myself to be the best YouTube interview candidate that's ever gone on crypto YouTube to promote the mega DApp known as PYRESWAP, I am going to be writing Epiphany Bridge stories, which is a specific type of Epiphany Bridge story, to replace the stories that people tell in their heads concerning these false beliefs. Does that make sense? Rolf, I completely agree. And, Rolf, there's even some tricks up my sleeve that I have not revealed yet, because I think that sometimes when I do that shit, like the MMA fighter that like maybe, guess what? You know what that MMA fighter was probably missing? A fucking story. And he didn't get one. He probably just got techno jargon on a fucking pitch deck, right? I think now it's more important that I kind of tell the story as we work on it and not think about like, hey, by the way, guys, possible moonshot coming, because while hype necessarily ends up being the driving force of the moon, we have to create the pre-hype. We have to create we have to get the charcoal together and then fucking get the fuse lit and then light the fuse so that it begins heating up the charcoal. And then on top of the charcoal, that's where the fireworks are. Does that make sense? Arguably, I think that I should create a like Rube Goldberg machine type of allegory to explain what you have to do marketing. That would be probably useful. I expect that I'm going to be making short story videos like for the rest of my life. I can think of ones that aren't even related to PYRESWAP, but they're going to be related to things like the Senurich Circus. I actually wanted to say something as well, and it's, okay, are there any more questions here? Because we're going extra long. I only felt that, I think that this is a really good show today because I started off with a story. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think that today, Thankful Thursday, by the way, this is quite often the straggler of the week. Like, people don't show up and they don't engage. But today we've got so much community. Anyways, are there any questions about this idea and this concept? And this is also why I'm explaining the stories that I tell whenever somebody asks me a question, right? So in any interview from here on out, any interview, the questions that people are going to ask, do you guys know what motivates the questions? Right? Motivation is always emotional, right? So when somebody asks a question, it's going to be a feeling that motivates that question based around, yeah, exactly. It's going to be, what motivates that question? It's going to be a feeling about themselves concerning that information. Do you guys understand? Whether that information is revealed or unknown or known. Do you guys understand? So yes, self-interest is correct. But basically, it is also emotive. It is emotive driven. And it's more about that the information in that answer, it can in fact change the way they feel about themselves. Do I sound like a gibberish right now? Do you guys actually follow me here? Right? So it is self-interest, and it's more about like if I were to ask, yeah, so if it's like, hey, wait a minute, I have a question about this. In order for people to even speak up, they have to feel a certain way about that mystery, about that curiosity. Do you guys understand? So it's the same curiosity that causes them to prompt a question. Therefore, when somebody asks a question, what do we know that we've done successfully? We have caused them to feel something. This is, again, marketing and advertising. You get very, very granular and detailed about these micro actions. Yes, exactly, Rolf. Yes. And maybe not in a pleasant way. Maybe you give their pickle an anxiety attack. Do you guys understand? Yeah. Not all tickling is friendly, you guys. Make sense? Yeah. So point being is that when I get asked a question, what are the questions that I'm going to be most likely asked? Can you guys guess? Whenever I get asked a question, I need to now pause, take a minute, and think about which of the main or the major or the most common false beliefs is this question rooted in. Do you guys understand? And then I'm going to say, let me tell you a quick story about that. And then I'm going to say the fucking story that doesn't address their question. Rather, it addresses the experience and the story they tell themselves. Then it replaces it with my epiphany bridge story, which puts them into a consideration state because now they're hearing two different stories. They have the story they tell themselves, but they've now also heard my story, which is a different. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Do you guys get it? So, yeah, from here on out, my sequence of things, I'm going to go on these interviews. I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff rehearsed. As the interviewee, as I'm on when I'm on a Twitter space, I can get asked questions by like 35 people, right? Do you guys know what I mean? Like 35 people, a dozen different languages. They're going to have a bunch of questions. They're going to ask me a question. I'm not going to be able to address it or think about it ahead of time. Instead of me just jumping into economics professor mode, I am not going to enter economics professor mode. I'm going to think. And again, I might even have these written out. Like for a Twitter space. For a Twitter space, I can actually have these written out because it's not like I'm on camera. Do you guys know what I mean? So Twitter spaces, I can actually have these things written out. So like, I won't. And I'm not. I'm actually not autistic. I know that I joke about being autistic because anyways, yeah. I don't think that I will. I'll be fine. Yeah. But the point being is for Twitter Spaces, I can effectively have a cheat sheet in front of me Do you guys get what I'm saying? So legitimately, any question I get asked, I'm like, so your question is this. I can just repeat it back to them. I can think about like, oh, okay, their concern is actually related to this. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Then I just tell a story that I already have memorized, right? Or maybe I'll even have it on index cards, right? Who fucking, you know, and then I'm gonna fucking crush them. You know what I mean? And then, do you guys get what I'm saying? So, can I ask you guys a question? Did the level of detail I went into today concerning storytelling marketing and its application to actually drive results, did this level of detail convince you that I am approaching expertise or remaining an amateur? Electronic, let's go to Peg first. Okay, let's mark it for one thing at a time. Yeah, let's mark it for one thing at a time. I thought the story was funny. The basement Ron or whatever. That's funny. Like, even as a person who also arguably is a critic of meme coins, it's still funny that like just to refute that guy, they went to 9 figures. Bravo. But thank you, Maddie. Rolf, indeed. Like, I gotta be a lifelong learner. And to be honest, Rolf, I'm not going. Yeah, if marketing and advertising has taught me anything, as soon as you become the expert, the meta changes. So you do have to always, have to adjust, retest, pivot, etc. Again, after this, you know, we're still launching Ribs Money, Affogato, fucking Hoggy. Then we're gonna expand to more chains, right? So we have other launches ahead of us. So thank you, Maddie. Thank you. There's no way that I'm ever going to be done with marketing. And if anything, I want to be able to teach enough other people about marketing. First of all, by the way, from me telling these stories, I empower the people who evangelize the project, because these stories are what people can effectively retell. Because instead of me just like spamming calculus at people and then talking about terminal utility or how banks or how, you know, or the difference between a 2-instrument system and a 1-instrument system in banking, people can just say, so there's this story that 5 tells, and they would just tell that story. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Legitimately, this is like an exponent in difference. Fexer, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know what, Fexer? I would also need to see results. But I'll tell you this, Fexer. What I had to learn is I had to learn to stop listening to people talk about marketing in Web3 because they weren't going into detail like I now see real experts going into detail, right? So now that I've read 9, 10, or 11 books, somewhere like that, in marketing in the last 90 days or so, I now can clearly tell the difference between who knows what they're talking about and who's got their hands in their pockets. Like, what you need to do is this. Yeah. Thank you, Rolf. Okay, yes, I appreciate the sense of humor here. That's really building community. By the way, guys, one of the videos on learnPyReswap.com, I'll talk about this structure real quick because I think it's cool as well. One of the things, by the way, that I want you guys to understand that when we market this project, we can come up with something that's really, really broad as far as like the vehicle. But in theory, there are other vehicle/opportunities that are part of PYRESWAP and the GPSC at the same time. And one of them is sustainable community. Does that make sense? And for those of you who don't know, we talk about the whole trifecta approach to community building here, where the Senorage Circus are the warranters, and we put the user base into different camps known as factions, right? Knights and witches, right? We haven't really gone deep into the lore yet, but you guys have at least seen this mentioned before, right? And I think I leaked a little bit of a short document, right? So I'm gonna so the fact that we have this level of design to our community, this is also something that can be proposed as a solution to a problem of theirs. Does that make sense? Because what's that one thing you guys see on Twitter, right? Alessio, would you agree that for some reason the accounts that are doing engagement bait, they're always like, show me a real community, right? Do you guys see that thing on Twitter? Where's the real communities at? Where are the real communities, right? And all they're doing is, shilling to get, you guys get what I'm saying, right? So the point being, though, is what is that doing for us? What is that? Can you guys guess? They are engagement baiting a real community. But eventually, people will effectively trust some of the projects on that list. And since all those projects are probably meme coins, they're going to find out how shitty those communities actually are. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Would you guys agree that when 2Share was $7,999, the project had an amazing community? Do you guys remember the community back when 2Share was $8,000? So good. But again, there just happens to be this weird problem in Web3 where red candles kill the community as well, right? So I know that I haven't gotten into the community design yet, but I realize that I can still tell a story about this to at least explain what the fucking problem is from a design standpoint. I'll explain what the fuck I'm talking about here. So learnPyreswap.com is probably going to have 8 videos. 8 videos. I'm going to explain what they are. And it's going to be 1 video per page. 1 video per page. And there will be at least 6 stories, but probably 8. I'll probably just do 8 anyways. Number 8 might not be a story, but more on that later. Okay. So the first one is a introduction story. It's an introduction about me and the project. And what it also does is it addresses the most common vehicle belief. The most common vehicle false belief. Does that make sense? So that could be, that could be, I actually don't know that yet, but it might, I have no idea yet. But I might try to address all of them in one story. I don't know. But the idea is that I would address the most common vehicle belief. 2 is I would tell a story that counters the most common internal belief. And I could do both of them at the same time because they're both just, I'm too stupid or I don't speak English. So you could bundle that in. 3 is the most common external belief. And that's either, only meme coins win or Phantom Opera is dying. And you could also, bundle scam into it because crypto just has so much scamming in it, or the economy or whatever. And 4, by the way, normally when you do a video sequence like this, you actually do something called a soap opera sequence. So these videos are short and they're meant to end with a hook that brings them into the next video. Does that make sense? You get them to click again. Do you guys follow me? The 4th video is actually a tutorial close video. So this 4th video, we will actually give a brief tutorial on how to install MetaMask and fund it, right? 3 separate ways. And then we walk them through a purchase of Pyre Gas. Does that make sense to you guys? Make sense? And legitimately, that 4th video is just done as a tutorial, and all you do is say, hey, do this with your own browser, and keep up with me. Does that make sense? And basically, Rolf, what you're doing here is you're just kind of walking them through their first purchase. Again, I'll probably be buy $5 of it. Does that make sense? Because we don't need to get them to throw their whole bank account in here. Rather, this 4th video is just about to get one of those tokens into their wallet, so they are at least now holding exposure. Am I frozen? Am I frozen? Okay, I'm back. Okay. The 5th video again. So this right here is a soap opera sequence of false belief 1, false belief 2, false belief 3, and then tutorial close. 5, 6, 7, 8, these can be longer videos because these videos right here will probably be like 10 minutes or less. These videos here will probably be like 30 minutes each, and they will be other types of Epiphany Bridge compulsion stories about knocking out, or should I say, other Epiphany Bridge stories that kind of like go over like hidden benefits and hidden features. Does that make sense? So one of these 5, 6, 7 videos, it'll be about the community sustainability, right? The community design, because it'll be my own story being like, okay, well, if red candles can kill a project, red candles can kill a community. So if we just move past that and think about the fact that communities tend to factionalize in the first place, or if crypto has a PvP element, why don't we just design for that PvP element and make it so that it's kind of self-regulating? Does that make sense? That's not a story, what I just said right there. That's more about me just rattling off features. But the point being here is that that will be one of the things that gets talked about in 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the 8th video here would be a much more compelling... I'll just fucking show it to you guys. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Are there any questions? There's no point in me talking about this, but I just want you guys to understand that, like, I want you to understand what we're doing, so you can at least, so when you see it, it might make more sense. All right, I'm gonna end the PYRESWAP show now. Okay. It's gonna be a great weekend. I think that we should have a bunch of stories written. I think by Monday, I'm gonna have a deluge of stories to just fire hose into your brain. I'm kidding. But yeah, I believe that we will have we will begin to have what we've been missing. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, guys, remember, we have a 7-day ad campaign running. No, Electronic, I have not tried it yet, but it is on my list of things to do because Sora might be what we need to truly break the like 5,000 view barrier, because most of what we post only gets like a few hundred views at most. So, by the way, what I've learned about marketing and advertising is the importance of a hook. So with short form video content, the hook is like what grabs them in the first 2.5 seconds. With text content or a website, it's the headline. It's like what it says. Does that make sense? So I understand that when I think about Sora, I realize, oh my God, I'm going to be able to make the most amazing visual hooks ever. So actually, how about this? Pirate Producer, would you like to take a crack at Sora AI and see if you can come up with the most amazing visual hooks ever?
Why haven't we done it yet?
What's that?
Why haven't we done it yet?
I didn't ask you before.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, well, that's why we haven't done it yet. All right.
You asked me, but then you couldn't make an account.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry. We haven't done it yet because Sora AI was blocking us from making an account. But yes, we will try again. We will try again. Because yes, I believe that the most powerful Sora, okay, as far as PYRESWAP goes, the most powerful thing Sora can do is effectively give us visual hooks. Now, I don't know if you know this, Electronic. Did I tell you guys that we might, maybe in 2025, maybe in January, we might have a book of short stories that are PYRESWAP lore based, and that would be something that we would kind of like, we would make it one of these, we would call it like a lead magnet project, or lead, yeah. It depends, it depends who Pirate Producer is that day, Odin. Let's put it that way. Electronic, I'll tell you this, I don't, you know what, I don't shoot these guns off enough in the house because I think people don't realize how dangerous this job is. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh my God, I'm kidding. Stop running. Stop running. Stop running. He's not running. I'm kidding. Okay. Anyways.
He's got his own gun.
Yeah. He's aiming a gun at me right now. Put that gun down. Okay. Okay. Anyways, March, April. Abuelito, okay. You don't know that. Yeah. It might be in January, champ. Yeah. Yeah. We don't need that much to get to peg. You need 2 people buying a day. That's what you need to get to peg. Yeah. You don't need that much to get to peg. You need a consistent amount of new users coming in. We have really good retention. We don't have good conversion. Like, yeah. Like, Which token, Abolito? Like PYREBNB? Probably, like, I don't know. Like, Dibs can get to peg with, like, 11 grand. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Phantom? Okay. We only need to get to the mid level. If we get to the mid level and then consistently continue to get new user base, all of the 3 fucking Tomb Forks will do just fine. They won't they won't do anything other than go up. So all we need to do, if you guys want to understand the procedural requirement, is we want to begin approaching the mid level while consistently keeping and gaining new users the whole way up, right? So if we're below 0.01 right now, what are we looking for? A consistent rate of new users coming in. Does that make sense? All we need to do is maintain that consistent amount of new users coming in after we hit the mid level, and your little Tomb Forks will go to peg. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter if it's 2 ohm, 3 ohm, Z ohm, or the original Tomb Finance even. Does that make sense? All we need is like a 1-digit number, more than 1. I like to say that 2 is the minimum, but 5 or 10 would be better. But if you have a consistent amount of people that are learning about the project for the first time and showing up, whether it's from Twitter ambassadors or YouTube interviews or fucking Twitter spaces or fucking advertising or short form content, which by the way, you guys know is all kind of bubbling up at the same time. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Do you guys understand? Yeah, like legitimately, we're trying to have an explosive rate of change, arguably before January, but saying January is more realistic. Does that make sense? I literally just told you what I need to do. I need to build PYRESWAP.com, and then I'm going on fucking tour. Do you guys understand? That's it. So I literally just told you what's remaining left to do. Right? Does that make sense? I hope that you guys are at least getting a sense of my pace here. Because all we do here is work on this project. We don't have fun. Yeah, we don't have fun here. Yeah. It's literally smiling is illegal in this house, and you can only talk about PYRESWAP. But yeah, anyways, all you have to do is have that consistent rate of adoption, because once we start telling stories and we're just littering the internet with storytelling marketing, I need you to understand everything that I did for marketing between the original beta launch in February and the end of November. All of that was like virtually counterproductive. Like I was probably sabotaging the project with everything I did. So like I had to have my own epiphany on what I was doing wrong on a highly technical level. And I realized, okay, I need to stop talking about this in technobabble. I need to start telling epiphany bridge stories. That was my own epiphany bridge story. And until I was reading from somebody who knew marketing at that level, I thought that other people in Web3 knew what the fuck they were talking about concerning marketing, and they don't. Well, Abolito, that right there is one of the false beliefs. Yeah. Anyways, because by the way, other people don't speak English for their first language either. Crypto Nick doesn't speak English for his first language. Whisper doesn't speak English for his first language. I'm not going to list everybody off, but anyways, what was I saying right here before? Odin, I would say that like just seeing the TWAP being not on the floor will make the word spread like wildfire. Yeah, because everybody on Phantom remembers 2 ohm. Like nobody on Phantom, like they don't like 2 ohm, but they remember it. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like as far as Tomb Forks go, they remember Tomb, and then as soon as they fork Tomb, which Tomb Fork comes to mind? 2 ohm is the most famous Tomb Fork. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Alessio, that's correct. Correct. That right there, by the way, is the number 5 false belief. Tomb Fork's bad. Yep, Alessio, yep, correct. Anyways, what the fuck was I saying? I had something cool to say, and you guys. By the way, I think that you guys think that like linearity is the way we approach anything. I'm actually going to talk about this too. I'm gonna talk. This is the last thing I'm gonna talk about, and then we're gonna end the show, okay? And I'm gonna just drop the blazer too, because like it's been a minute. Let's just drop the blazer. I know that a lot of you guys like to think about how much of the total supply of pyre gas is getting burned from the incantation witch vault, right? This is actually more of a conceptual topic, so I kind of wish that I had a story about it. I don't have a story about this, but I'll try to explain this simplistically. There is no progress bar with smoldering. And I know that maybe that sounds like discouragement. It doesn't. There's nothing discouraging about this. But I know that both inside the circus and outside the circus, people believe there is a progress bar with smoldering. There is no progress bar. It's like breathing. Do you guys know how breathing works? Where you inhale and you exhale? Do you guys know how that works? Smoldering is like breathing. You can also think of it like the way that we shed skin cells. Are you guys aware that like all the time you're shedding skin cells? Did you guys know this? Are you guys aware about the way your skin works? Okay, so we're just shedding skin cells all the time. They're also getting replaced. I want you to understand, we never get to the point where we shed ourselves to being skinless. We're not talking about leprosy. We're not talking about being a harlequin baby. Correct, Maddie, correct. So what I mean to say is, like breathing or like shedding our skin, there isn't like a goal lung size. There isn't any milestones or thresholds. And what I want you to understand here is, let's say right now, let's say for $1,000 of volume, right? Let's say $1,000 of daily volume. Now, for $1,000 of daily volume, let's say, okay, fuck the volume, hang on. Let's do it like this. $30 incant package. $30 incant. Pending, does that make sense? This is a scenario we're walking through. This is a scenario. So for a scenario of $30 incants, there's 3 players, okay? 3 players, $30 incants. Does that make sense? Now, I want you to understand this. When TWAP is down here, 0.01, let's say that the amount of token to play, 3 players staking 100 each. Three players staking $100 each. What is $100 in Pyre Phantom, right? Like Pyre Phantom is less than 1, right? Okay, so it's like a penny, right? Right? Pyre Phantom is right now a penny. So if they're all staking $100, they're staking 10,000 Pyre Phantom. Does that make sense? Would you guys agree? If it's assuming it's a penny and they're staking $100, they're staking 10,000 Pyre Phantom each. Does everybody follow me? Okay. Now, if there's 3 players staking 10,000 Pyre Phantom each, that means 2 smolders occurred. Yes, 10,000 Pyre Phantom. 10K Pyre Phantom, yes. 2 smolders occurred. So what does the first player who smoldered gets, what does he lose? He loses 100, right? Is it 10 or 100? It's 10, okay. So then he loses 10, then the, okay. Got it, okay. So, well, it's not 0.2, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's, so basically speaking, let's round it that 30 Pyre Phantom gets smoldered. Does that make sense? So for this round, 30 Pyre Phantom got smoldered. Does everyone follow me there? We're just rounding it to fucking 30, meaning 10, 10, and 10. Do you guys understand why it's 10, 10, and 10? Okay. 30 Pyre Phantom got smoldered in this scenario, right? Now here's the problem. Let's say that the TWAP is not 0.01. Let's say that TWAP is 10 times that. Let's say that TWAP is 0.1. Does that make sense? Now the TWAP is 0.1, but they're still playing for $30 and it's $100 each. They're now playing with 1,000 Pyre Phantom each. Does that make sense? And if they're playing with 1,000 each, then how much did we smolder? Exactly. 3. Fexer or 1. Yeah. 1 times 3. So what I mean to tell you guys is that like deflation and inflation are multivariable. Like smoldering is just always happening because it's like a stopgap. It's like an auto hedge. Does that make sense? And this by the way, I'm going to be teaching this better in these videos because I'm going to go into teaching the actual fundamental analysis of PYRESWAP. I realize that even though these dashboards have now been up for like 8 months, there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what you're actually supposed to draw from them. So the point being here, by the way, the dashboards work better when more people understand the dashboards. Would you guys agree? I'm sorry, maybe you don't agree. But would you guys believe that? Like, I didn't really think about it, but like these dashboards work better when people understand the dashboards. I'm not even joking. Like the dashboards become more dependable when more people understand them. And like, I didn't realize that I was leaving this gap of knowledge like running amok for a while. So the point being here is that we raised the price, but now the smoldering rate is going down. Because why is that happening? Well, one, there's a 6-letter word that is arguably key to Fiddianism. There's a 6-letter word, and I say it all the time. And by the way, this is literally me jumping off of a cliff in a technobabble. Who here knows the 6-letter word that I'm about to say? It's a weird one. Any guesses? T-A-R-A-Z-U. Looks like this. Has anybody ever heard me say this before? Is my audio working? Thank you, Dr. Mac. No screen? Really? Okay. Can anybody see me? Yeah. Anybody? You might need to rejoin. I don't know why this is it. Some people seem to have it. Okay. So the point being here is that Tarazu is almost in everything about this. And the thing is, like, that is meant to... the vibratility is a product of Tarazu when we get to that range. Does that make sense? Because the Tarazu there is you can make money meeting or you can make money printing, right? So you have like this tension point, right? It's like the system naturally balances what's going on. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So when the TWAP is low, it burns the quickest because the system is trying to repair itself the fastest when TWAPs are low. But as the TWAP gets higher, the system doesn't continue giving you that same level of help. Does that make sense? It literally, it's like raising a child. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Allegorically? Like you're not going to get as much smoldering because you don't need as much smoldering. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is this is not... Well, yes. In that scenario, yes, it was $30 both time. It was $30 both time. Now, granted, Fexer, you're correct. When the price of Pyre gas goes up, it could also mean the volume is higher, and then you would have a flywheel effect, right? Does that make sense? Right? That can sometimes be true based on how fast the price is moving. Does that make sense? So there's other variables there and other Tarazus, right? But I'm going to try to isolate this so we're only talking about 2 things at a time. I know for a fact that I can talk about a terazu of two things and I can teach it. Once I get into like 3-pan and 4-pan stuff, I am completely off of, I'm in Nobel Prize territory, let's put it that way. And I don't mean that as a compliment for myself. I mean that, I mean that I better write a goddamn dictionary worth of stuff to to explain what I'm talking about. But yeah, the point being though, is that you're still getting the supply crunched. And because you're getting the supply crunched, I don't know if I talked about this on the PYRESWAP show. There's another concept I talk about, and I call it a corrupting coin toss, or a coin toss of corruption. Or maybe I should call it a correcting coin toss. So I want you guys to imagine that you're flipping a coin, heads or tails. And I want you to imagine that instead of this coin having a completely objective 50-50 chance with each toss, I want you to imagine that this coin gets a bias over time. Does that make sense? That this coin begins to show a preference over time. And I want you to imagine that this coin, if something is ever happening too much, that's not even always true. Sometimes it corrects in the exponential. So what I mean to say here is this coin toss, this coin toss of corruption. Okay, sorry. Coin toss. Okay, let me explain what the fuck that means. This refers to a coin where, well, electronic, maybe it'll be a GPSC artifact, by the way. This coin toss of corruption begins to bias towards the winner, the one in the lead. Yeah. Coin toss of correction is the opposite. Yeah. I should probably say favorite and underdog, but do you guys understand this concept? And I want you to know this is not a physical coin, but it's the best allegory I can explain because these two concepts are going to be critical to fundamental analysis in GPSC. Yeah. By the way, the concept of coin toss of corruption and correction, this also involves the way that the boardroom is printed later, much more later. But do you guys at least understand? Imagine a coin that if you toss it 100 times, as soon as one face is in the lead, it begins to actually show favoritism towards that side. So if heads ends up in the lead, it'll start being 51% chance of heads. Does that make sense? Or 52% chance of heads. Or 53% chance of heads. A coin as a correction is if heads is in the lead, it'll start showing favoritism to tails. Do you guys understand this idea? And yeah, by the way, the fact that we are a fantasy fiction themed project, yes, the correction one is the compensating one, right? I could probably make it the coin toss of compensation. Yeah, I have not committed these to a dissertation yet that I've submitted to the Swedish central bank, but one day I will. So yeah, coin toss of corruption or coin toss of compensation, right? That either one of them could be a thing because compensating might be a better name for it. But yes, literally that. So in one scenario, the coin chooses to, give favoritism to the underdog, and the corruption one, it shows favoritism to the winner, right? The one that's already in the lead. Does that make sense? And by the way, for those of you able to visualize, you might be able to recognize that these are curved lines. Do you guys recognize that over time, these would be a curved line? Okay, and that was a hell of an ask because I could not ask that question on a Twitter space. I can only ask that question to people that have been to at least probably 50 PYRESWAP shows, to be honest. Okay, so when we talk about smoldering, does that make sense? Or even the fundamental analysis. The fact that smoldering keeps happening smoldering is both a smoldering is like a coin toss of corruption, and meeting is like a coin toss of correction. Does that make sense? So what that means is, if you're burning token, you don't necessarily need that same amount of bias. But what do you know from the smoldering? Less pyre gas exited than entered. Does that make sense? This is the guarantee of the incantation witch vault as long as 2 players are there per epoch. As long as smoldering happens, meaning it's not just a single person, less pyre gas exited, meaning unstaked. Does that make sense? Less pyre gas was unstaked than entered. Because, does that make sense? And I'm not talking about claims. Claims do not matter. Do you guys know why? Because claims already existed. They weren't, that's not new token. I guess during Genesis is new, but whatever. Yeah. Gratuity is technically new, but yeah. But you guys understand what I'm saying? I now understand why you guys hate Genesis so much. Anyways, do you guys all understand that, like, the mathematical guarantee is that as long as there's 2 players, you have that, like, proof that less pyre gas exited. Meaning, if 1,000 went in, only 999 came out. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, whatever number is less. And because of that, where is the pyre gas going when it's exiting? It's going right back into the hands of the fucking players, the user base, right? The witches, the people who you don't know. They're strangers on the internet, right? And because of that, this is meant to just give you the conceptual understanding that as long as smoldering happens, do you guys understand what I'm saying? As long as smoldering happens, we are continuing to breathe. Does that make sense? That's what smoldering means. Right? Because if this is the case, you know that however much got bought, less will be sold. Do you guys understand? Right? Because now it means that there has to be in the math of pyre gas somewhere, in the fundamentals, there has to be a net buy. Do you guys get what I'm saying? I realize now, yes, I get it. Yeah, we did hyperinflate. Okay. But does that make sense? This is what smoldering tells you. It says that not on the chart, but on the dashboards, I know that less exited than entered. And if I know that less exited than entered, then pyre gas must be becoming more scarce. And I know that it's always getting bought because it's always getting bought a little bit from the incantation. So it's always crushing supply and it's always increasing demand. Right? Do you guys remember me drawing this matrix before? About supply and demand? Right? There's really only 4 scenarios that can happen. Right? Supply up, demand up, supply up, demand down, supply down, demand up. Actually, I'm just going to fucking erase this and redraw it up here. Correct. That is the fundamental analysis. So my problem, my fault, like the thing that I owe as an apology to everybody on here is that I did not actually teach enough of the fundamental analysis of this project. Because if I had done that, it would be easier to understand what is actually happening and less people would be selling because they would also understand what's happening too. Because when people are watching the charts, does that make sense? They're not really invested in what the true value of this project is, which, as you guys know, we're now steering to calling it fundamental analysis, right? Or at least focusing on it. So the point being here is that whenever the incantation happens, okay, let me find the right marker, I guess. We know what's happening. Does that make sense? So whenever the incantation happens, and smoldering happens at least once, you now know that that happened. Does that make sense? And this means that somewhere in the math, this is putting a positive bias on the price movement. It's putting a positive bias. Does that make sense? Over time. It's biasing the price movement. Like a coin toss over time. And I realize now that, like, you know, this is, I think, why the universe has now reconfigured my brain to basically talk about fundamental analysis first. Talk about dashboards first. Explain what the dashboards actually tell you first. But at the same time, I'm going to explain why you don't need to check progress for smoldering, and I'm going to describe it to you like that. Now that you know when the price goes up, the smoldering goes down, I want you to understand that you don't ever linearly approach the collapse of the supply. Like, we're never going to evaporate all of the pyre gas. Does that make sense to you guys? Like literally, as you approach it, the brakes, you begin slowing down. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? Granted, this is why I keep talking about the user base at this point, right? I'm going to explain to you guys about, okay, imagine if you were watching 2 ohm print, okay? And you were saying, okay, 2 ohm total supply, what is it, 5 million, 6 million? Okay. Let's say 2 ohm total supply is like 1 million or whatever, right? And let's say you're watching it go up by 2% when it prints. So let's see. That's 20,000 2 ohm, right? Right? Am I wrong? So if you're tracking the progress of smoldering, I want you to understand mathematically this is what it sounds like. It's like you're saying, it's like you're tracking the progress between 1 million total supply and positive infinity. Do you guys understand that? It's not the exact same math, but to anybody who is tracking smoldering progress, it does not work the way that you think it works, because inflation and deflation are multivariable. So as you solve the supply problem, you're also solving the demand problem. And as the demand problem gets solved, the supply problem is not seen to be as severe. Does that make sense? Because if the demand problem gets solved, you don't have an oversupply problem. Does that make sense? The problem is it's not that there's 2 problems, it's that there's 1 problem that has 2 factors to it. Ah, fuck. Can I get a video? Can I get a... Hey, we're gonna end it. Yeah, we're gonna end it. Yeah, we're at what? Oh fuck! I got another call. Okay, all right, guys. This is a 2-hour PYRESWAP show, and we're gonna end it here. And I did feel like we did a really good job today. It might have been that I don't know why. But anyways, okay. So the point being here is that I'm not trying to discourage you, but understand that, like, I know that you guys might like looking at the smoldering because it's like a metric you can understand, and other metrics you can look at is like the wallet count changing or the Discord count changing. And I know that you guys haven't seen that in like a measurable way for, I don't know, 90 days or more. I don't even know when the last time we really had whatever. That problem is the demand problem, because when you guys are playing the night game later and you're trying to get to peg, you need enough people playing the witch game in order to masquerade. Do you guys understand that? Maybe you don't. I need to get off here in like 5 minutes, okay? Do you guys understand what a masquerade trade is? And this is a night tactic. It can be a witch tactic too. But specifically for everybody who wants to the velvet rope pattern of Pyre Phantom is the dominating one. Does that make sense to you guys? And what I mean by that is that all other types of velvet rope pattern, or should I say vibratile price activity we see later, it'll always be in the if you guys know the do you guys know the galaxy map where I drew it like a planet, where I drew Pyre Phantom as a planet? Yep. And what I mean by that is, yeah, so the way that 2 ohm goes up and down, or the way that 2 share goes up and down, those are gonna be like derivative waveforms of Pyre Phantom's waveform. So like Pyre Phantom is like the planet, the other ones are like moons with satellites. And we're now jumping straight into like astrophysics, which is why, again, we have a smaller community than we should, right? But I needed to create an allegory for that. Yes, exactly. Like a Jovian syzygy, right? For those of you who don't know what Jovian syzygy means, that is what Rolf is referring to. And that now we're really getting obscure here. Really getting obscure. But yes, a Jovian syzygy. And in order to get 2 ohm to get above peg and stay at peg, you're going to okay, has anybody seen the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks? Okay, Odin, do you remember? Yeah, I know, it was a long time ago. It was a 90s movie. Does anybody remember what they had to do to get back to Earth? Like what they had to do inside their in the lunar lander, inside the spaceship, whatever the fuck they were in? Does anybody remember like what the concepts? Well, yes, but no. I mean their trajectory problem. They had a problem, yeah. Scrubbing CO2 in general is like what you would do for sure, but I mean like what was their flight path problem? That was also not it. Does anybody remember? I mean, they might have had to fire the engines, but like I mean on a path, like they had to. They did have to readjust course, but I kind of think that you're shotgunning. Yes, Odin, correct. Correct, Odin, correct. In order to get back to Earth, they had to. Well, that also is generally true, Maddie, but Odin got it correctly. They had to use the lunar gravity and literally like U-turn. Does that make sense? They had to use lunar gravity to U-turn. They had to slingshot back, which is it's not a great way to describe it in English because a slingshot doesn't work that way. But they basically had to NASCAR turn on gravity. Yeah. Does that make sense to you guys? Make sense? Okay. So what I mean to say is, in order to get, like, once we're in the vibratile range, in order for masquerade trading to work, well done, Dr. Mack, yes. Yeah, and they probably had to talk about it as well. And they probably were scrubbing CO2 the whole time they were doing it. Yep. Amazing team effort, guys. Okay? But the point being here is that Pyre Phantom needs to have like enough small transactions, meaning real transactions from a real user base, in order for the velvet row pattern to be like big and strong enough to actually support giving a masquerade trade opportunity to the tomb forks that orbited. Does that make sense? If there isn't enough gravity on Pyre Phantom, your tomb forks don't get to have a... Does that make sense? Like the velvet rope pattern of Pyre Phantom ends up being the fuel of the Tomb Forks. Okay? So what I mean to say is like smoldering back to peg. I get that you guys think about like this is the progress bar. That way you feel like we don't lose progress or anything. But we need there to be a large enough user base so that this thing actually works. This project probably doesn't work at all with less than 100 million market cap. Just being honest. Like, it is only designed to be a mega dApp, and it just can't be a micro dApp. Make sense? Right now, we're in prime position to effectively at least appear to be a micro dApp so that a bunch of people can speculate on it and give us the right amount of demand we need to effectively create a vacuum stampede of people who can then, by proxy, go through the epiphany funnels that we have built ahead of time, which can then get shared by other people who are also having the epiphany. Do you guys get what I'm saying? And then you will have enough of a life force in order to be the prime mover for everything else. Does that make sense? So I'm not trying to discourage anybody about smoldering, but I want you to know on Pyre AVAX, it is a problem. So when the Transpire Epoch button hangs up on Pyre AVAX, that is a problem. It is like it's not breathing. It's like it's fucking getting choked. Does that make sense? Like it does not have the ability to breathe. Do you guys know when else smoldering stops? Do you guys know when else smoldering stops? Because what's happening on Pyre AVAX is just like a technical difficulty. Not that, no, Dr. Mac. The smoldering also stops when you go arcane. Does that make sense? And when you go arcane, it's like you're holding your breath and then a bunch of people start punching you in the stomach. Does that make sense? Correct, Maddie. Correct. So the point being here is that, correct, smoldering gets you back to a resting respiration. Does that make sense? So like when you're choking, you're not breathing. But then also like if you're holding your breath, you're also not breathing. Do you get what I'm saying? So one way or another, Doc, you know about lungs, right? So one way or another, whether you're being asphyxiated one way or whether you're holding your breath, you're going to end up back to a normal respiratory cycle. Does that make sense allegorically to you guys? Because going arcane is also like you're gonna have you could call it like a correction coin toss. Because do you know what corrects? Do you know what corrects there? The Metatrage opportunity for the Tomb Forks. Because if Pyre Phantom is at like 1.2 and 2 ohm is at like 0.79, you can Metatrage quite a bit. You guys get what I'm saying, right? That becomes that type of. Anyways, yeah. The point being is, all right. Well, I have to get the fuck off stage. I have to get to another call in 6 minutes. Thank you guys so much for coming to this extra special edition of Thankful Thursday on the PYRESWAP Show. I hope that this show just really blew you away. I hope that this particular episode really revealed the deluge of marketing domination to come to this project soon. And I hope that perhaps you had an epiphany on this show as well. Thank you so much for coming to the PYRESWAP Show. And I really appreciate that you guys are with us for this amazing story. Have a great day.